Just, feeling the body from inside, sensing it from inside, and the gravity which gently keeps us in place. Yeah, at a time in history where everything seems to accelerate, the polarization seems to, the tension, gets bigger and bigger between the ways of looking and seeing of what is needed, what is happening. It's a stressful time, but at the same time, that's how transformation presents. It's first the tension, the heat goes up, 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 until then something shifts and we just don't know. And to learn to be with that not knowing, I think that's what we are doing here together, to, build this pocket of sanity so we can support each other to be with the not knowing. The beautiful Zen saying, not knowing is most intimate. To sense and feel into our bodies as organs of listening to the vast body of the planetary system. And everything, the emotions which come up, like disbelief, horror, or maybe just humor, or a mix of all of it, the paradox of that. And to learn to sit in that paradox is a growthful experience if we have the support. Our own, internal and external support we can give to each other by showing up. And making ourselves available for this to move through us and change us. Now, using the Buddha's teachings on the Noble Eightfold Path and on meditation to provide the stability so we can allow this, because it's happening, if we allow it or not. And if we don't allow it, it's just going to be more painful and more confusing. So it's really the best thing to do is to just be with it. Then leaning into the lineage of transmission of this Buddhist wisdom, which is around for 2,600 years on this planet and has reached us somehow, which is considered very fortunate. So really holding that in heart, holding that in mind, that we do have very good technology to use what is happening for growth rather than for getting lost and shutting down. And as the situation is like gaining more momentum now, we need all the support we can get to stay aware. And in that context, I spoke last time about purpose-built ritual spaces which can potentially intensify the natural trajectory of transformation through the skillful use of external symbols and art, which can help us, to connect with some much deeper realities within ourselves. And Carl Gustav Jung, a Swiss, very famous psychologist, he was a disciple of Sigmund Freud, and then he split away from him. And he says the psychological mechanism for the transformation of energy is the symbol. And that's what Carl Gustav Jung is really famous for. And I've experienced myself several times when I felt stuck at a particular crossroads, that the usage of symbols could give me access to a deeper layer within myself, which otherwise would not have been accessible because the thinking mind simply can't reach there. And then a healing on a deep level, can take place. And, sometimes the symbols can be, externally arranged, like, for example, here in the Aloka Earth Room or in any kind of religious space, a cathedral, a mosque, a Hindu temple, or whatever, we feel is helpful for us. Or it can also be through different techniques, we can also elicit internal symbols which just emerge if we go about particular ways. We can elicit that emergence, because often the body itself, the heart itself, knows what it needs. And to just look into the etymology of the word symbol, which comes from the Greek and consists of two parts. Sin means together, sin means together, and balo means I throw, I put. So the meaning is I'm putting something together which stands for something else. And that word was first recorded in 1590 in Europe. So to throw something together which stands for something else. So it's kind of quite simple. And that something else, can be reached through the key of that symbol, which can reach there. Because, it can find a way into our hearts and psyches without having to do a lot of talking. And they have the capacity to heal broken connections and re-establish the flow of aliveness, bringing back vitality which has been suppressed or oppressed from the inside or the outside or both. And then a data flow, comes back online, which was interrupted, and kept us stuck, in a certain kind of habitual repetition. And then it feels like really lifeless and kind of empty in the negative sense, anemic. We are not really there. We are not really online. There's something missing. We are doing all of the right things, but they don't go anywhere. They don't really meet us where we are. And I've seen that, at the recent Eco-Dharma conference in Spirit Rock, that at certain points, there was a woman, she's quite a well-known singer, and she sang two songs, quite, very well-known song. One was the song Imagine by John Lennon, and then there was another one, Here Comes the Sun. Two very famous songs. But the way she did that, and when it was inserted, into the program, was very, very uplifting. And then there comes energy through you. You don't even know it's there. It's like a powerful river which washes away some holding on, which needs to go. And it brings a sense of collectivity, of community, which is really wow, But then the art is really, how can we stay with that opening without becoming dependent then on this, But using that more as a signpost of what is possible. And then through skillfully inserting it at certain points to kind of see it as a technology for transformation. And there is enjoyment, is part of it, but it's more than that. It's more than just enjoying the beautiful music or the beautiful person, but just the whole synergy. Because it can open up portals to new realities, new ways of looking, which can inform new ways of being in the world. And in this sense, art can be prophetic, like a true expression of spirit or aliveness or vitality, however we want to call it. There's many words to it, but we can sense it when it's touching us. And, and it can come through gifted artists. It comes not from them, but it comes through them. And in that sense, art can speak truth to power in ways the old power structures or the old habitual patterns can do nothing about. They just are penetrated because of the realness of it. There is no defense possible. It just touches us very deeply. Can be very simple truth about being alive, being a mammalian herd animal, and certain things just deeply touch us if we want it or not. And to use that skillfully for opening up new ways of connecting and taking care of each other and of the web of life. So like a deep intuitive healing process, a healing image that emerges from the depths of our being with the support of particular techniques passed down over the ages. And in the Vajrayana, these techniques were used skillfully, as the Vajrayana landed in Tibet and met shamanism there, and Buddhism had to make a connection with shamanism in order to land there. And that's what we call the Vajrayana, the Tantra today. And some of the images are, I would consider, rather a bit outdated, very deeply patriarchal, but the technique itself is very powerful. And Veram Thupten Kunga is with me now for a month here at the Aloka Earth Room, and we talk quite a lot about that. And how can this very powerful technique be freed up from the grips of patriarchy, for example? It's an interesting consideration. Can planet Earth as a living being be the guru in the center of such a practice? And there also Remember I told you that Jane Fonda, she is currently 87 years old, was at the Ekodama conference. She is a very experienced activist and, has really used her privilege to take a lot of risks to bring awareness and attention to important issues. And she offered some reflections. And I particularly remember 2 quotes because I've written them down. And the first one is, art can lead the way into a new reality. And second one is, art shows us things we could not see before because our guard is down. The beauty or the sweetness or whatever, or the power of some art pieces, the guard goes down, and then this thing can, or this message, this energy can penetrate through and meet us and, give us the necessary impetus for shift, or to walk further, take a risk, because we have the support. We have like an injection of energy, like a helping hand, helping us out of the hole onto the ground so we can keep on walking. And there's certainly an intertwined history of art and religion that reaches back to prehistoric times, and we can see this in some of the very exquisite cave paintings, which are deeply, deeply touching and very, very sophisticated. Exactly being able to depict the essence of an animal without many strokes extra. This is just mind-blowing how some of those art pieces, that could be like in a modern art gallery. So, this record of symbols which have been important for our ancestors because they have been meaningful to them as expressions of their inner states or conditions. May they have been conditions of stress, like maybe, before going on the hunt and not knowing if you're going to survive it, or when coming back from the hunt, and celebrating, or most likely a mix of both. So it's a way of externalizing these inner states, and then this externalizing can help to get a handle on those states. And it kind of gives the heart, the mind, awareness, a place to land and to start working from that place. With the support of instructions which have been passed down over the ages, Buddhist and otherwise, and some of them just simply human. And when we stand in front and take these symbols in, something relaxes deep inside. And there's a sense of belonging and support which becomes available, which gives us courage and gives us a sense of nourishment and possibility and, looking out for each other. And, that we can move with a stream of aliveness, woven of human and more than human beings. And, taking in the guidance from our ancestors and also moving it into the future and adjusting it to the challenges and the joys of the current time we are in. So the word symbol means to to throw something together which points at something else, in order to amplify that something else, so it can stabilize and become the next stepping stone on the path, so we don't just turn in circles, repeating and not daring to change anything. And that's one of the difficult things, in my tradition. The fear of adaptation. And one needs to be careful. That is totally important, yes. And it's hard to make decisions, but to not do anything out of fear is also not right, I think. So it's a very delicate undertaking. There has been lots of discussion and polarization going on over the centuries, and lots of different Buddhist schools and lineages have developed out of that discord. But it's a creative discord. And this is how growth happens. It happens by being willing to sit in the discord, to sit with the tension, and to embrace the complexity of what is happening. And without that development, complexity is overwhelming, and we need to shut it out and become more and more anemic and disconnected, become a little kind of museum of something else. So complexity, the complexity of an evolving world is actually the creative challenge. We need to express growth, to express our evolution, to be with the tension of these contradictions, of these paradoxes. That gives us the energy which can turn into growth if we have the courage to be with it, to be with the discomfort of that. And that's what I hope we can do together, to give each other the solace of we are not alone in that complexity, with a president who is babbling complete nonsense at the UN. It is really unbelievable how low it can get. This is so absurd. If it would be a movie like of Charlie Chaplin or something like that, it'd be fun. But this is also absurd and really dangerous. So let's now, focus more on the meditation for the remaining 30 minutes or so. And breathing into the body. However, I feel a sense of burning in my solar plexus, as I allow all of these different contradictions, to be there. The beauty of the aspiration and then the reality of the speech of President Trump yesterday at the UN. Where most other UN representatives, they were just sitting there completely petrified, like in shock. And he was going on and on and on. I think he was given 20 minutes and he spoke almost an hour. He just completely ignored it. So let's start by just bringing attention to the inner space and take a screenshot of that inner space. How is it? just, seeing how we feel right now with everything what's happening in our personal lives and on the international scene. And then say yes to whatever is our inner state. And from there, connecting with the breath. A powerful friend, a powerful regulation tool that has been with us since the first moment we came out. We emerged through our mothers. And every inhalation and exhalation, invites us deeper into the body and the body sensations. And noticing, where the body feels safe and open, accessible. Maybe there's some streaming and pulsing. And if we prolong the exhalations, we can slow it down further, relaxing out into the spaciousness of where we are sitting. Exhalation by exhalation, you drop deeper into your body. And noticing the connection to the ground through the body. The pressure where the body meets the cushion. And the cushion is our connection to the ground. And just noticing, does that feel distant, or does that feel more close? Is there more direct capacity to sense and feel that? Just whatever it is, no need to change it, but just respecting what is and embracing that. Maybe you can, sense the soil beneath where you're sitting. And the more we are capable to be in the body, the more we are able to stay connected with the land. The land of the body, which emerges out of the land of the biosphere. Being all one process, kept going by eating, drinking, breathing, going to the bathroom, the power of the sun, which energizes life on this planet. And the more settled, we are in the body, the closer we feel to the ground. And everything we integrate and heal puts more ground, more soil under our feet. Because it heals our connection with the land. And we viscerally know we are the land. This body is land walking. If we heal our inner land, it helps us to feel more deeply connected to the outer land. And then certain ways of doing are just simply not attractive. Because it heals our roots. And there's a direct rapport, which naturally, creates that wish to benefit, to be a steward, to be accountable, to do what we can to have a benevolent influence on this web of life. Which is under great stress at this time. And then, becoming aware of that which knows about this. So I'm making a U-turn, conscious awareness. Which knows how you feel right now, what's going on in the body and in the mind. Listening. A grounded listening. Not in order to get away, but in order to deeper connect. And through this deeper connection, becoming conscious of the fact that we are not separate. But this is a constant change in coming together and falling away. And the only constancy is the change, the permanence, the flow. And we can recognize ourselves as part of a collective self-healing mechanism of this planet. We can volunteer, to participate in that way by just noticing this deep embeddedness and opening ourselves to this data flow, by inviting it, by transforming that which is in the way, the contractions, the fears, the aversion, by gently allowing that to slowly melt and open up, allowing this rewiring, which brings online some really archaic capacities for collaborating with the web of life, but also new capacities we don't know yet, because we are not in control and never have been. It was just a myth, an immature myth which is dying. So, by listening to this aliveness, the vibrancy, which is moving through us, or moving as us, whatever, makes more sense for you. This inner listening, the cosmic hum, or this beautiful image, of the ornaments of the mother ringing as she moves. And she always finds a way. Since 4.6 billion years, she always found a way. There's no need to assume it's going to stop now. So to, re-establish that connection and being part of the paradigm shift from the domineering male hero to the very different approach of the mother, the nourishment, the ground of being. Which teaches emptiness every moment. As Thich Nhat Hanh so beautifully coined the word interbeing. And this, collective healing, self-healing mechanism is working through many, many people in different ways, all around the world. And we can become a conscious part of that orchestra which doesn't have a conductor, which is a mystery and has been called many names. And it's not always playing the same tune. The tune has changed. So we need to adjust to that. And this practice is, to stay connected with that intention to listen and to be used by that. To express a healing direction in our lives. And with the support of ancient techniques, symbolism, art, anything which can help to open up the stuckness. And there is a time, when the polarization will intensify and potentially even become a war, or whatever is needed to solve the tangle. So you can just take some few minutes, to just sit in that vibrancy, the ringing of the ornaments of the mother as she moves, Pachamama, the mother of time, who knows what to do. And we can open ourselves to her instructions. That can be our practice. And whatever is shaken up, we meet that in the 4 establishments of mindfulness. Body, feeling tone, mind states, and conditionality. And the flow, the change, the impermanence of that process that is what we need to allow space for. By not grasping, but by knowing, by being aware of what is happening. Giving it the space it needs to find its way. And when we get stuck, using symbols, using art, using all of that which uplifts the mind as portal, or as a stepping stone. Listening to the music of the unmanifest, that which can embrace complexity and say yes to growth. Whenever you notice your mind gets stuck on thought, contracts around the thought, just gently coming back to listening with the body. And being aware of that which knows. And maybe, there is a symbol which would come up for you. Something which you find supportive. Sometimes, a visual image can bubble up, or a word, or maybe nothing, that's fine. It's all about how we relate to this process. How we relate to this uncertainty. And not knowing is most intimate. Being the closest at this vitality. The aliveness. Which is playing out as this cosmic drama. And we want to participate in a way which brings as least harm as possible. As little harm as possible and as much benefit as possible. And in closing, I have a short poem which is called The Tug of Autumn. We recently, last weekend, we had the equinox, the fall equinox. At noon, I stood in stillness amidst a cathedral of browning oaks, chin up, mouth agape, watching. Leaves languish from the trees. It was raining, and the tug of autumn was surely here. I would like to be wiser, calmer, more at home in the world. I'd like to give my days the delighted artfulness of courtship, merging, lingering, bearing witness, offering praise. I want to hold what holds us. I want to hold what holds us. And this is a poem by Ingrid Goff-Maidoff. I would like to be wiser, calmer, more at home in the world. And just slowly, coming back from the meditation and coming back into the room.